I have had the privilege of working with a channel called Way of Wood. They're an amazing channel that has not only FreeCAD tutorials, but many other things, especially related to carpentry. We've worked together to each make 5 useful tips and awesome tricks videos for FreeCAD. So give Way of Wood a view, give them a subscribe. They have 5 more awesome tricks in FreeCAD. Let's get started. I'm here in FreeCAD, and in a lot of platforms it can be challenging to generate involute spur gears or other types of gears and know that they're going to mesh properly, because a lot of these models, even if you get them from suppliers, can sometimes not have the correct involute profile. FreeCAD provides a really elegant solution for this, and is found in the Gear workbench. Now, if you don't have this, which FreeCAD doesn't have this by default, you simply come to Tools, Add-on Manager, and you come down here to FC Gear, select that, click Install, and then restart FreeCAD, and you'll have the Gear workbench. And you have all kinds of gears, right? You have rack, cycloid, crown gear, worm gear. Just about anything you can think of is here. And if I click on spur gear, it just generates a spur gear that has the correct dimensions to mesh properly. Now, if I click on this gear and click model over here in the history tree, I have a series of properties that I can adjust this gear with. The big ones are going to be module, and module's right here. And of course, if I change my module, then I change my gear size. Now, if you're unfamiliar with module, it is the inverse of diametral pitch. And that's to say, the inverse of how many teeth you will have per inch along your pitch circle diameter. The pitch circle, of course, is a circle that represents the diameter of the gear itself in pure rolling motion. So, as long as your modules are the same between 2 gears and your pressure angle is the same, it is highly likely that the gears will mesh. So again, module here, and we should have pressure angle right there, right? Another common pressure angle is 14.5 in an involute gear. If I rebuild that, you can see the pressure angle change in the tooth profile. But I like 20. 20 is kind of a magic number, so I'm going to go back to that. You can also adjust the number of teeth, which of course is where you get your ratio from. So we can give this 50 teeth if we wanted to and make it quite a large gear. It is a really brilliant gear generator, and we can also adjust clearance. So if we have a fit issue and we want to have more teeth clearance, I can say 0.75 perhaps, and notice now we have some more clearance for meshing. So there's a whole huge menu to choose from on how to work with these involute gears, and FreeCAD makes this incredibly easy as well. So I hope this was a helpful, quick tip.
If you're downloading a file from Thingiverse, you could be lucky and you have a file that has the extension .scad. This is an OpenSCAD file, and if you don't want to use OpenSCAD on your computer, the files can most of the times be directly opened in FreeCAD. Here we look at a small 3D print to convert a ruler into a marking gauge. It is important that the OpenSCAD import depends on a Python module. In Ubuntu Linux, you can install the package with sudo apt install python 3 -ply. As an alternative, you can install the package via the Python package manager by typing in the following on the command line: pip install ply. This should also work under Windows. After importing the model in FreeCAD, you can even directly edit the parameters of the OpenSCAD model. Let's, for example, change the diameter of the cylinders that make up the holes for the axle. If we delete a Boolean operation, we can change the individual parts of the assembly. One thing that I use FreeCAD frequently for is to add a fillet to my OpenSCAD models, as this is quite a pain in OpenSCAD itself. But for most models, you will only get an STL file, like this cable mount. After importing the STL, you have a mesh file in FreeCAD. You can't modify the mesh as you could do it with a CAD file, so we have to convert it. Go to the Mesh workbench. Within the Mesh Analyze and Report menu, we find a toolbox that can help us fixing problems with the mesh. In this case, we are good and there are no flipped normals, holes, or similar problems. Usually, simple models that come straight from another CAD program will have less problems. More organic models, such as this miniature here, will often have more problems that you discover when running the Analyze function. I will usually apply them one by one and see if they damage the model. But honestly, this kind of model is most likely better repaired in the Free Software Mesh Lab first and then modified in Blender. So let's go back to our cable mount. After running any necessary repairs, we harmonize the normals. Now we have a mesh, but not a form that could be manipulated. In order to get a shape, we switch to the Part workbench and select Create Shape from Mesh. This creates a shape, but the new shape is not very friendly to use as the mesh is not optimal. At the top of the form, for example, there is not a square, but it's made up from two triangles. It would be quite hard to work with that shape. So we go to the Part workbench, Create Copy, Refine Shape. This is going to result in an empty shell. With Convert to Solid, we finally have a form we can work with. We can, for example, add a cylinder, then we cut a hole in the larger cylinder, and after adding a small fillet, we have a mount that could be screwed to a surface rather than gluing it.
Although 0.19 has been in pre-release for a while, I'd like to cover some of the new things that are available in the drawing environment. This is a pretty amazing update from the last tech draw, and I was impressed with the last tech draw, so this is pretty darn cool. So here I have a bill of materials with an assembly that's been imported, and one of the new features, in fact I think the one that I'm most excited about, is now this button to add balloons and annotations. I select a line or a face that I want to add a balloon to, click the balloon button, and now I have a drawing that I can start to bubble my parts on. I mean, that's amazing. In addition, if I choose another part of my drawing, maybe down here, I can not only add in a balloon, but I can come down here and adjust my text for it to be, if I can say like, weld here, right? Now, normally you'd use a weld symbol. Oh yeah, that's available in this version now too, and we're going to be covering that. So I can say none, and now I have a straight annotation that I can make things. I can use a triangle, an inspection, hexagon, square, I mean, you name it, FreeCAD has got it. So this is an incredible addition. And I mean, it's incredible just all by itself for FreeCAD to be able to do this from one version to another, but it gets even better. So we can add balloons and annotations. We have now leader lines. In addition, I can add rich text, and this is pretty cool. I select this right here, and as I do, I can start the rich text editor, and look at it, it's like a little word processor almost, and I can say, you know, test, notes, come down here, I can do a strike through, and that's helpful if you want to show revision control or things that have been removed. I can bold things with the strike through still on apparently. I can underline, and I can choose colors, right? So I can make a green text as part of my drawing. You can't see the text very well there, but I do have green text. I can make a bullet point, right? And I can change the text back to black as well as making it green. I mean, this is one smart text editor. So then I can click the save button. Those are my notes. I can show a frame around this if I want to. And that black thing is my frame that I can remove or take away. So this is great for adding like a drawing note or even things to the title block, right? So you have this rich text editor that's really powerful and way more powerful than it has been in the past revisions. That's really exciting. If I move into this next, in fact, maybe I'll even come into here, right? So I've got this little part. It's pretty simple, right? Just a pad. And if I come into this drawing, let's say you'll notice that this is not the highest point, right? The highest point lies somewhere on this arc. So if I wanted to have an overall dimension, that'd be very difficult to do. However, if I select this face and then I come over here and choose vertical extent, notice FreeCAD automatically knows that I want to show the vertical extent dimension of this part. It chooses the lowermost point and it adds its own uppermost point. That's pretty powerful. So I can do vertical and horizontal extents very easily. Oh. Horizontal. There we go. I also, in TechDraw, now have the capability of adding my own midpoints and quadrants. So what if I have to reference the middle of this straight line for some reason? Well, I can come over here and say add midpoint vertice, and a midpoint vertice shows up. If I want to get rid of it, I come over here to this button called Remove Cosmetic Object, and it gets rid of that cosmetic object just as easily. I can also add in a series of 4 points, right? So if I have a circle, I can put a point in every quadrant of the circle. Or if I want to have 4 evenly spaced points across this line for some reason, then I can do that. And in order to do that, I would say add quadrant vertices, and there are 4 lines. If I do it over here, it'll get way too crowded, but you should get the idea, right? I have 4 points. Now what if I need to reference an arc center point? Maybe I'll do this arc, or just as another reminder, I can select all of these points, just hold Control and remove them. If I need to highlight the arc center point for some reason, the center point command works on the arc as well, and we can add an endpoint or midpoint vertice. You can also add your own virtual sharp. It's not as straightforward. If we say add cosmetic vertex, you can choose to type in your X and Y coordinates and place it that way, or you can visually do it, but this isn't dimension related, so I wouldn't trust it for correct dimensions, but you can add a little point picker. So if you need to do a virtual sharp for some reason, you can just by typing in the coordinates to that sharp relative to the center of your view. So that would be adding cosmetic points. Again, very, very powerful. Now if I come to this drawing, what if I want to add a center line through the middle of this? Well, that would be quite difficult until this version. I select my view, which you can see I have selected, and if I wish to add a center line, I come over here and say add center line to faces. I want to add a horizontal center line, and I say OK, and my center line is added. Easy as that. Again, very incredible. I can also make a vertical center line in the view as well. I can add a center line to this face, and we'll make sure it's vertical. Right, just very incredible ability to do this, and I think this really increases your ability to do good TechDraw work. You can also add center lines in between 2 points or in between 2 lines doing the same method. Next, I can add in welding symbols. So there's nothing in this view that I want to weld, but I can add a leader line as before. right? So I choose the points. So I pick my points first, and then I create a nice leader line over here. And I say OK. And then with my leader line highlighted, I come over here and it says add welding information to leader line. And I can add in like a nice fillet weld. This is the AWS style. And I can add in, a number here. And there's my welding information. I can always double click here and, add an all around or an alternating symbol or whatever I like. And if I want to add the little caret, that is pretty typical of welding symbols, or if I want to edit my leader line after the fact, I double click on my leader line, I can edit my points. All right, so I can move that one a bit closer. And then say my end symbol, I can use the typical welding fork if I have more information that I would like to display. I'll save the changes to my leader line points. We'll say OK. So now I have a nice welding symbol. Again, AWS is below, ISO is above, and I haven't really made this particular to anything because there's not even a weld going there. But that is how you can do welding symbols if you wish. The TechDraw has new templates. Particularly, it looks like there's one for Russian, Slavian, and also a China template. So there's a few other things, like some formatting changes, SVG hatches, and I think one big deal, they've redone some of the dimensions, and now they are fully compliant with ISO or ASME Y14.5. ASME Y14.5 is by far my favorite standard. I wasn't expecting that standard to come up, but it has, and I am incredibly impressed. I mean, every new version of FreeCAD just exceeds my expectations, and the drawing environment is a great example of why. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope this was a great quick tip. I'll see you in the next one.
Spreadsheets are a great tool to organize the parameters of your model. However, right-clicking on each cell in order to give it an alias might be a bit cumbersome. The Alias Manager macro is there for the rescue. Install it with the Add-on Manager in the Tools menu. After installation, you want to go to Tools, Customize Macros, and add a new button for the macro. If you then go to the Toolbar tab, you can first create a new group in the Spreadsheet workbench and then add the button for the macro. If you are in a spreadsheet, simply press the button and select the column that contains your values. The names for the variables always have to be in column A. Then select the correct range and press OK and close the window. You can now use the alias in all entry fields. Just enter the name of the spreadsheet, use autocompletion, and the name of the variable, and you get a fully parametric model. Whenever you change the values in the spreadsheet, the change will be reflected in the design. A quick bonus tip: sometimes I want to leave a note to myself about certain values or why I did some weird things in a model. Since version 0.19, this no longer requires a spreadsheet, as all documents can have text files attached to them. This feature can be found in Tools, Add Text Document.
So in FreeCAD, there are some ways to modernize the appearance of the platform itself. And I want to go through one way today, known as the glass workbench. This is something you can install that makes FreeCAD look a lot more updated. I'm not going to do this myself for future videos. I have too many people that don't use this that would benefit to follow along with more of a default look. But this is great if you want to modernize the way that your FreeCAD looks. So here I have FreeCAD open. I've got a model of a JS39 Gripen. I think that's a pretty cool plane, a lot like the Rafael that I modeled a little while back. And if you're interested in getting your FreeCAD to look better, you can use the add-on manager. Now there is a current thing going on, and I'm not sure what's causing this, but when I go to Tools and Add-on Manager, all I have is 3D printing tools. Now, if you are running Linux, there's a pretty easy way to work around that. So, if something called Glass ends up on your add-on manager, then just install Glass from here. If not, which I don't have Glass showing up, I only have one workbench showing up, then you can enter these lines of code into the terminal. So I'll open up my terminal, and we're going to say sudo apt get install git python numpy python pyside. Exactly as that. And of course I've already installed that. And then when we mkdir, we do the little squiggly thing next to the one key on the keyboard, /.freecad. In fact, I think that's case sensitive, so we're going to say freecad /mod, right? And then we make that folder, but I've already made that folder, so I'm not going to hit enter. And then we change directory. And now that we're in this directory, we can input a command to clone from GitHub. So in this case, I want to install the Glass Workbench. Now I've found the Glass Workbench on GitHub, so I enter the command git clone, and then Control-Shift-V, and there is the address to the GitHub. Hit enter. And now it's cloning Glass. So we should have the Glass Workbench installed. And what I have to do now, of course, is restart FreeCAD. Alright, so now I have this workbench installed. I'm going to say Edit Preferences, and this is not necessary, but I just like having a darker style sheet. So apply that. Now I think, well, what's different, right? There's not much different about this appearance. Well, how about I open up my step file again. Alright, so with something open, you can see that I have this new transparent toggle right here. So what I can do is just close my combo view, and I have a history tree on things, right? If I open up another file, so I think this is a pretty good example because it has such a long history tree with a lot of features on this one. And you can download this from my GrabCAD if you'd like to have a copy of this for yourself. But the Glass add-on does a wonderful job of presenting this in the way that you might see it in CATIA or even SolidWorks. And it works, the same way. If I want to edit a sketch, I just double-click on it, and I'm now editing whatever sketch that I made. So it works the same way, and it's a fantastic workbench if you wish to modernize the look of your FreeCAD. Well, I hope this was a helpful quick tip. There's a few others in FreeCAD that can help update your workbench as well. One is called Icon Themes, which maybe I can cover at some point as well. Hope this is helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.